Good evening, and welcome to the April edition of FLAIR, the First Ladies Association for Research and Education virtual program. My name is Diana Carlin, and I'm the president of FLAIR. For those of you who aren't familiar, the mission of FLAIR is to create and sustain a network to promote and publicize research and education relevant to the contributions, lives, impacts, and lasting legacies of U.S. First Ladies. We are very pleased tonight to have Phyllis Ross with us, who is the author of a new book about Jackie Kennedy and Brooklyn's Design Works. And we're going to get a preview of that, the book that will come out on August 4th of 2026. But before we get started, there are some thank yous I need to make. First is to our Programs and Events Committee, which is chaired by our Vice President, Chris Leahy, Jennifer Taylor, Heath Lee, Katie Sibley, and Deborah Skellis-Giokis. I also want to thank the producer of our virtual program, Sharon Leahy, and our intern from American University, Abby Bleichart. Without them, we could not do these programs. There's been a great deal going on the last few days related to First Ladies and FLAIR. Saturday was National First Ladies Day, and as part of our participation in celebrating that, we released our brand new journal, the Journal of First Ladies Studies. Our first issue came out. It is now online, and I would direct you to our website, which is flair-net.org. If you go there and you go to the research link, you will find the Journal of First Ladies Studies. Two wonderful articles about Mamie Eisenhower, which will cause you to take a very different view of Mamie, or if you don't know much about Mamie, you'll find out what a dynamic person she was. So I want to thank Chris Lee, who's also the editor, for all he did to get that journal off and running and ready for National First Ladies Day. We also have a very big event coming up on May 15th at American University, which is one of FLAIR's institutional partners, and that is a conference. So we will be hosting a conference on May 15th at American University. If you go to our website, there is a link on the homepage that will take you to registration. If you can't join us in Washington, D.C., we will be live streaming, and you can register online for the live stream. I also want to recognize, and the list is up here on the screen, our institutional partners. These partners help us in many ways and provide us with individuals for some of our programs. They help spread the word about FLAIR. So thank you to all of our institutional lifetime members. So now it's a pleasure for me to introduce the chair of our Events and Programs Committee, Dr. Chris Leahy, who will introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Diana. Just a reminder before we get started to viewers on YouTube, if you are subscribing to our channel on YouTube, you can drop comments into the chat section, which is located on the right side of the screen. If you are following us on Facebook and watching on Facebook, you can use the comment or question section there as well. So please send your questions as we make our way through the program. Tonight's speaker is Phyllis Ross. Phyllis is an independent scholar of 20th century decorative arts and design. She is the author of Gilbert Rohde, Modern Design for Modern Living, which was published by Yale University Press. She was awarded a Schomburg Scholars in Residence Fellowship at the New York Public Library in 2020 for her forthcoming book, Stories in Fabric, The Design Works of Bedford-Stuyvesant, to be published by Fordham University Press in August of this year. Tonight's presentation is based on this new book. Phyllis's work spans research, curation, and public programs at the Yale University Art Gallery, Cooper Hewitt, the Museum of the City of New York, and the Bard Graduate Center. Please welcome Phyllis Ross.
Hello, I'm really delighted to be here, and thank you all for tuning in. And thank you especially to FLAIR for inviting me to share my work. This program marks the inaugural event for my forthcoming book, Stories in Fabric, The Design Works of Bedford-Stuyvesant, to be released, as you just heard, in August by Fordham University Press. A couple of words about Design Works. It was a Black creative business focused on textile design and production. The designs were inspired by African art and craft and prized for their distinctive look. And you can see a couple of the designs on the cover of the book. Located in the majority Black community of Bedford-Stuyvesant in central Brooklyn, Design Works was in operation from the late 1960s to the late 1970s. This evening, you'll hear excerpts from Stories in Fabric, interwoven with new material relating to tonight's subject, a little-known venture undertaken by Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis in the late 1960s, namely the founding of Design Works of Bedford-Stuyvesant. Without Jackie, there would have been no Design Works. It was through her efforts that Design Works came into existence in 1969. She founded the company as part of an urban renewal program in Brooklyn, developed by her brother-in-law, Senator Robert F. Kennedy. And although her role as Design Works founder was extensively published at the time and publicized, this chapter of her legacy soon receded from memory. Stories in Fabric is the first detailed account not only of Design Works, but also of Jackie's role in its establishment. But before chronicling why and how she became involved in Bed-Stuy, as it's commonly called, I'd like to briefly relate how I became aware of Design Works more than 3 decades after its closure in 1979. My interest in Design Works dates to 2012, when I joined the curatorial team developing The World of Dee and Leslie Tillett, an exhibition at the Museum of the City of New York. The show documented the work of this husband and wife duo who designed and produced distinctive luxury textiles for an elite clientele. As I soon learned, Jackie Kennedy was numbered among their socially prominent clients, going back to the time she was First Lady. In her White House bedroom, a Tillett design was used for drapes and the bed treatment. Within a few years, what began as a designer-client relationship evolved into a friendship. As I researched the Tilletts, I also learned about their consulting practice, working overseas with cottage industries, and their community craft projects in the US, of which the Design Works of Bedford-Stuyvesant was, by far, the most significant. By the time the Tillett exhibition opened in the fall of 2012, I had resolved to continue researching this unique craft company. The material I discovered through interviews, research in public and private archives, and published sources motivated me to delve ever more deeply into this layered story of design, community, race relations, urban renewal, and much more. While these topics are covered in the book, the focus this evening will be on Jackie's relationship to Design Works. Given her centrality in the genesis of Design Works, it seemed fitting to begin the book, Stories in Fabric, with an episode that illustrates how she leveraged her star power to bring attention to Design Works and to the community of Bedford-Stuyvesant. I begin with a celebratory event that achieved legendary status in the lore of Design Works. On the evening of November 29, 1971, an interracial crowd of nearly 1,500 guests gathered at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City to attend what was called the Bedford-Stuyvesant Experience at the Met. It was a one-night celebration to showcase the inaugural textile collection produced by the Design Works of Bedford-Stuyvesant, established just 2 years earlier. Design Works' strikingly original African-inspired prints transformed the museum's majestic Great Hall into a pop-up fabric showroom, with bolts of bold, colorful fabric suspended from the second-floor balcony. In the hall's center, an assortment of patterns draped across the information desk could be examined at close range. As a product launch, it was nothing short of extraordinary. One guest commanded particular attention, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. For many who attended the experience, Jackie's presence that evening would not have been a surprise. In the weeks leading up to the Met event, her connection to Design Works had been widely reported in the press. It was the lead topic in Maxine Cheshire's syndicated column, VIP, published in 300 newspapers, and the centerpiece of a feature story in House Beautiful. For the first and only time, Jackie allowed interior views of her New York apartment to be photographed, showing the library and dining room decorated with Design Works fabrics. Natalie Schramm, the magazine's editor and author of the article, told Maxine Cheshire that Jackie had vacillated for months about whether to go ahead with the photo shoot. Clearly, the decision to share views of her home with the world had not been easy. Referring to the article in House Beautiful, Schramm also noted, if this doesn't do more to help the Bedford-Stuyvesant designers than anything, then I don't know merchandising. In the end, Jackie relinquished her privacy in favor of helping Design Works to boost sales and achieve financial stability. The excitement generated by one of Onassis's rare public appearances is palpable in photos from the Met event, with guests jostling one another, eager to be within her orbit. In the center of this photo is Design Works president Mark Bethel, about whom you'll hear more shortly. He's facing Jackie, whose head we see from behind. That night, she reportedly shook hands with 200 people. As an aside, I did speak to a few of them, which was a lot of fun. Her presence could only be perceived as a public endorsement of Design Works, and with her consummate awareness of fashion as message, she pointedly wore an example of Design Works' distinctive jewelry, a gilded roaster pendant inspired by an 18th century bronze sculpture from the African kingdom of Benin in modern-day Nigeria. She's obviously exuberant as she talks with Callie Thomas, Design Works' first head designer. This image, capturing the spirit of the evening, was printed in newspapers across the country. The Met event functioned as a dual celebration, a testament to Design Works' artistry and to the legacy of the late Senator Robert Kennedy and his commitment to Bed-Stuy. In 1967, a year before his death, Kennedy had founded the Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation, commonly known as Restoration, America's first community development corporation, which embodied a new approach to the revitalization of blighted urban neighborhoods. Design Works was created under the auspices of Restoration's Economic Development Program, in which a key objective was to support and expand local businesses. Restoration was Kennedy's response to what he termed the nation's most critical issue, the urban crisis. Toward the end of 1965, during his first year as New York's junior senator, he began to formulate what amounted to a rescue plan for America's inner cities, culminating in the establishment of Restoration. In Bed-Stuy, the urban crisis was manifested in a long list of acute problems: poverty, a high crime rate, inadequate schools, insufficient healthcare facilities, substandard public services, and a high rate of unemployment, especially among young Black and Latino men. Kennedy judged that existing federal programs were insufficient to address the range of problems endemic to the country's inner cities. What he proposed was an approach that enlisted the private sector to play a more active role, partnering with government to use its expertise and influence to benefit residents of inner city ghettos. His holistic approach, what he called, quote, grabbing the web whole, encompassed housing construction and rehabilitation, improvement and expansion of educational facilities, and the promotion of cultural resources and institutions. His program aimed to involve businessmen, foundations, banks, private investors, and federal, state, and local government to spur the revitalization and renewal of inner-city communities. Jackie's idea for Design Works was sparked by the intersection of her personal relationship with Robert Kennedy, from whom she learned about these conditions in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and her friendship with the Tillotts. She was especially mindful of Dee Dee and Leslie's work as consultants to cottage industries in developing countries, where conditions were sometimes compared with America's inner cities. She took an immediate interest in Robert Kennedy's work in Bed-Stuy. A photo from December 1965 documents that interest. It shows Jackie with Robert Kennedy and two of his children at a Christmas party in Bed-Stuy, one of several they attended that night. And the caption, I don't know if it just says, he's trying to sing Silent Night, but evidently he was not a very good singer. As Kennedy's community renewal concept coalesced, Jackie believed there was an opportunity for Bed-Stuy to benefit from the Tillotts' expertise through a project that would establish a new business and create jobs for community residents. It was Robert Kennedy's death in June 1968 that became the impetus to move ahead with her idea. Within weeks of his assassination, she inaugurated a dialogue between restoration officials and the Tillotts. Robert Kennedy had no direct role in founding Design Works, formally launched more than a year after his death. But when Jackie discussed the project with him, he had endorsed the idea, as she made clear to a reporter from Newsday the night of the Experience event at the Met, explaining, quote, "I'm here because Bobby Kennedy was interested in the project," end quote. Design Works was Jackie's personal tribute to her brother-in-law in furtherance of his vision for restoration. Her interest in contributing to the renewal of Bed-Stuy was tied directly to their close relationship, heightened in the aftermath of John F. Kennedy's death, as they sought to comfort each other. There is, I would argue, a broader context for understanding Jackie Onassis' Design Works initiative, apart from her relationship with Robert Kennedy and belief in his vision for Bedford-Stuyvesant. Central to that context was her time as First Lady during the height of the Civil Rights Movement, which she witnessed from the unique vantage point of the White House. Within a few months of John Kennedy's inauguration in 1961, civil rights became the nation's most urgent domestic issue, with crises erupting in the South over voting rights, racially motivated bombings, and demands to end segregation. Frustrated with inaction on civil protections, Black and white activists stepped up nonviolent protests, including the dramatic Freedom Rides in 1961 that called attention to the segregation of transportation facilities and other injustices. During Kennedy's presidential campaign the previous year, thousands of activists had been involved in what became known as the sit-in movement, triggered when 4 Black college students in North Carolina took seats at a whites-only lunch counter and refused to leave. The sit-ins eventually spread to 20 states and involved as many as 70,000 participants. African Americans had overwhelmingly supported Kennedy's presidential campaign in 1960. Receiving 70% of the Black vote had been crucial to his victory. His election fostered the expectation that early in his administration, the president would propose civil rights legislation to end discrimination across the board in voting rights, employment, housing, transportation, and public facilities. Ultimately, Kennedy did charge Congress to pass legislation that would become the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but not until June 1963. During the first 2 years of his administration, in the face of intractable congressional opposition to moving forward on civil rights, he chose instead to promote integration through political appointments, adding an unprecedented number of Blacks to the ranks of agency officials and ambassadorial posts. Within the White House itself, he followed similar policies, hiring Blacks to fill important positions in the press office and other departments. Social events at the White House, Jackie's realm, provided another platform for signaling greater inclusivity with programs that featured African American artists, writers, and performers. Through reporting in African American media outlets, such as the magazines Jet and Ebony, Black readers were informed of these gestures, from integrating Caroline Kennedy's White House nursery school classes to hosting a reception for 1,000 invitees honoring the centennial of the Emancipation Proclamation. Fanny Granton, who reported on the White House for Jet and Ebony, kept close track of these new practices and claimed that Jackie's actions, quote, expressed her racial conviction more eloquently than speeches could have done, close quote. In addition to inviting leading Black figures to participate in high-profile events, the Kennedy White House policy of inclusion extended more broadly to the composition of guest lists for social events. This was an official protocol directed by Jackie and clearly stated in a memo written by her social secretary, Letitia Tish Baldridge, in May 1963, quote, we have made it a firm policy to invite at least 3 Negro couples to all official dinners and luncheons, close quote. While this might be dismissed by some as tokenism, Jet correspondent Fanny Granton made a point of listing in the magazine the names of every Black guest at White House events. Grace Bumbry, a 25-year-old Black soprano already in demand in Europe, was invited by Jackie to perform for 150 guests at an event honoring Vice President Lyndon Johnson. A decade later, when asked about her White House appearance, Bumbry explained part of what made that experience so significant. She said, we're, that is, Black opera singers, consistently fighting not only a battle for ourselves, but for them, that is, other Blacks. 2. Every time I go out on the stage or outside my front door, I represent not only Grace Bumbry, but the whole Black race. Jackie Kennedy came to care deeply about civil rights, as she made clear in a 1971 letter to Republican Congressman William McCullough, called an unsung hero of the civil rights movement, who played a key role in the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. When Jackie learned of McCullough's impending retirement, she felt compelled to express, quote, something that has been in my heart for many years, end quote, praising the Ohio legislator for his courageous support of the Civil Rights Act, calling it, quote, a light of hope, one I shall raise my children on as they grow older, end quote. Written on board the Onassis yacht Christina in June 1971, the 3-page letter is now part of the Civil Rights Collection of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. It reveals Jackie's thorough familiarity with how the Civil Rights Act became law, considered by some to be the single most important legislation passed by Congress in the 20th century. Key individuals in John F. Kennedy's administration who worked on the Civil Rights Bill also became involved in launching Design Works. Burke Marshall and John Doerr, top officials in the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division under then Attorney General Robert Kennedy, helped draft the Civil Rights Act. After Robert Kennedy's death they resolved to contribute to what he had begun in Bed-Stuy. Their unity of purpose was key to advancing the Design Works project. Marshall, in his capacity as Jackie's friend and increasingly trusted advisor, and Dorr, picked by Robert Kennedy to be president of Restoration's Development and Services Corporation, an external advisory board of white businessmen that had its own staff. In large part, Jackie's idea for a craft workshop in Bed-Stuy took its inspiration from the work of her friends Leslie and Dee Dee Tillett, who, in addition to producing high-end custom printed fabrics and introducing innovative printing techniques in textile manufacturing, worked regularly as advisors to community craft projects in which the scope of their services typically included product development and marketing strategies. In late July of 1968, less than 2 months after Robert Kennedy's assassination, when Jackie urged the Tilletts to apply their cottage industry experience to Bedford-Stuyvesant, they were eager to lend their expertise to the project. 6 months later, in January of 1969, Leslie Tillett had translated Jackie's idea into a comprehensive business plan. He conceptualized Design Works as a craft studio and production company where as many as 100 residents of Bed-Stuy would find employment at a workshop specializing in hand-printed textiles, a project that dovetailed with one of Restoration's top priorities, job creation. Restoration intended that Design Works would operate as a profitable business while at the same time helping to alleviate local unemployment. It was during 1970 and 71 that Jackie affirmed her role as the company's most influential supporter. Through updates from Leslie, communications with Restoration officials, and direct observation on her visits to Bed-Stuy, she followed developments at Design Works closely. Both behind the scenes and publicly, she took an active role in advancing the interests of the company. Among her activities during the first 2 years were overtures to friends and family to support Design Works, embellishing her New York apartment with the company's African-inspired textiles, which we saw a picture of just a few minutes ago, arranging a temporary Design Works showroom in Manhattan, and most substantively, making a financial contribution to the company of $12,000. She was even willing for her donation, equivalent to $100,000 today, to be made public in hopes that others would follow suit, a striking departure from her practice of carefully guarded privacy. And early in 1970, when Restoration hosted a gathering of close to 100 people to celebrate the official start of fabric production at Design Works, Jackie was there to show her support. I spoke with Dave Schoenbrod, at the time a young lawyer and Restoration staffer, who reminisced about that event, underscoring that Jackie's presence added glamour and prestige to this private gathering of Design Works employees and Restoration staff and officials. He marveled at the rare opportunity to meet her and shake hands with her. Not long after this celebration, Jackie wrote to friends and family seeking support for Design Works. In letters to her brother-in-law, Senator Ted Kennedy, her former White House Social Secretary, Tish Baldridge, and her interior decorator, Keith Irvine, who had directed projects in her New York apartment, she made an appeal for financial support and help in identifying customers for large orders of Design Works fabrics, emphasizing that orders from commercial customers such as hotels, motels, hospitals, and ships would be, quote, a lifesaver. I might point out that these suggestions, while well-intentioned, didn't factor in the very real product limitations of hand-printed fabrics, In other words, it would have been extremely difficult to fill a large commercial order. She also asked their help, that is, Ted Kennedy, Tish Baldridge, and Keith Irvine, in raising funds to support a Manhattan showroom shop combination, a component Leslie Tillett considered the linchpin of his marketing plan for Design Works. To implement this objective, the company would have needed $100,000. That's nearly $1 million in today's values. We don't know how Ted Kennedy and Tish Baldridge responded to her letters, but Keith Irvine's reply is preserved in Jackie's papers at the Kennedy Library. He had visited Design Works with Leslie Tillett and was eager to help in any way possible, writing enthusiastically, quote, "I think the project is a great one," close quote. As Jackie hoped, Irvine volunteered to provide space in his Upper East Side design studio as a temporary Manhattan outlet for Design Works products. In addition to showing fabric swatches and samples of items for custom orders, he shared ideas for new products like beach umbrellas, sarongs, fabric-lined picnic baskets, to name a few. A short time later, in mid-June, Jackie headlined a small group of VIPs and influencers who were invited to Design Works to help publicize the new business. We see them listening attentively as Leslie explains the Design Works operation, presents the textile designs, and later he brought them to the printing plant to see the magic of silkscreen printing. We can see Jackie at the window on the right side. Sitting next to her is Diana Vreeland, editor of Vogue magazine. In the front is fashion icon Babe Paley wearing a Tillett zebra print dress. On the far left is Daphne Shepard, a journalist who covered Bed-Stuy for the New York Amsterdam News, New York's major Black newspaper. And standing on the right is Franklin Thomas. He was the executive director of restoration. Jackie's presence at this special presentation virtually guaranteed it would receive the kind of publicity Leslie had promised to deliver for Design Works. The very next week, New York Magazine's influential Best Bets shopping column featured Design Works, touting the company's patterns as some of the best on the market. New York Amsterdam News also published a photo from Jackie's visit. Sometime after, Leslie created a montage of photos from the VIP sessions. Among the myriad shots of visitors and staff, images of Jackie are scattered throughout. I think you can see her very clearly in one that's just slightly to the right of center, but she's in other pictures too, like the one we just saw from the VIP session, and also one where Franklin Thomas is standing next to her. I also want to point out in the lower left corner, we see Mark Bethell and Leslie Tillett enjoying a spirit of camaraderie. Jackie's personal support of Mark Bethell, the company's president, was a less visible but crucially important aspect of her engagement with Design Works. Bethell was a lifelong resident of Bed-Stuy, a member of Restoration's community board, and the owner of a successful jewelry business featuring his own designs. It was on the basis of his community involvement and craft background that Restoration appointed him to lead Design Works. In personal letters exchanged between Mark Bethell and Jackie Onassis, preserved in the Bethell Family Archive and in Jackie's papers at the Kennedy Library, we get a sense of how important her support and encouragement were to Bethell. Over a period of 9 years, beginning in October 1970, a year after Design Works incorporation, until January 1979, A few months before the company closed, Bethel received and saved 10 letters from Jackie. The evolution of their relationship is evident in the content, but also in the choice of salutation, beginning with Dear Mr. Bethel in the first two letters Jackie wrote in 1970 and 71. Handwritten on Jackie's signature powder blue personal stationery, the 1970 letter was both a thank you for sending her recent publicity clippings about Design Works, but more importantly, a pep talk with words of encouragement and optimism about the company's future. This was especially important at a time when the company's finances were precarious, to say the least. Her letter begins, Dear Mr. Bethel, I was so touched by your sending me the articles on the Design Works of Bedford-Stuyvesant and most happy to read the glowing things written. I know that this coming year will be a wonderful year for you, that you will really get underway. There are so many beautiful ideas and such dedication and talent there, just waiting to burst upon the world. I should tell you that my living room and dining room look marvelous in the Design Works materials, and everyone thinks so. With all best wishes to you, and thank you again for your letter. I do hope to see you soon. Most sincerely, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. A year later, Bethel shared with her some exciting news from Design Works. Foremost was a contract with Connaissance Fabrics, a high-end Manhattan fabric showroom with outlets across the U.S. and overseas. Bethel also mentioned the grand plans Connaissance envisioned for introducing Design Works fabrics at special events in Paris and New York, adding, quote, it would be a great honor to have you join us at the presentation of the Design Works of Bedford-Stuyvesant in New York City. This is one of two letters from Bethel preserved in Jackie's papers at the Kennedy Library. Replying to him, Jackie applauded these developments and, quote, the wonderful progress which has been made these past months. It means so much to know our dream is finally a reality, and I am certain you deserve a great deal of credit for your untiring devotion to the cause, end quote. She also hopes to attend the Connaissance party in November and signs off with, thank you again for your kindness in writing me. Her note conveys that by that point, she viewed Bethel as a partner in the cause. However, the Met Museum event appears to have marked a real turning point in their relationship. From that point on, he was no longer Mr. Bethel. Thereafter, her letters begin, Dear Mark. To give you an even stronger sense of her support and how meaningful it was to him, I'm going to read from their exchange of letters following the spectacular evening at the Met. Jackie wrote first. Along with her note, she sent color photos taken that night, some of them showing dancers who had performed earlier in the evening. They are draped with Design Works prints. Her letter began, quote, I thought you might like to have these, the photos. It was really an unforgettable evening. There are high points in life, but in between, there is nothing but the hardest work to reach those high points. That is what you do, Mark, all the hard work. You made possible that great evening of recognition. For the new year, I wish for you and the Design Works that the high points keep coming like fireworks. I know they will, but I know how hard you will be working to make them happen. Thank you for such a wonderful evening. You know the admiration I have for you and all your dedicated associates. Happy New Year. Sincerely, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. For his part, Bethel responded in a tone that matched, if not exceeded, her tone of elation, writing, Dear Mrs. Onassis, received your words with leaping heart and imparadized emotions of sheer delight. The evening at the Metropolitan Museum was the most splendorous, imperishable, never to be equaled again moments of my lifespan. The total electrification of my senses as you entered the great hall should only happen to me once. Your quiet elegance overwhelmed me. It required weeks for me to regain possession of my spirit control. And he repeated her phrase, an unforgettable experience. He goes on, we have since returned to the Design Works to now produce and deliver on time our product to the marketplace. I am confident that 1 year from now will again find us celebrating another high point. In the interim, time rolls his ceaseless course. Your presence is ever constant, and to me a monument more lasting than bronze. I wish you and yours a double portion of long life and good health, happiness overflowing. Sincerely, Mark. P.S. I appreciate your thoughtfulness in sending me the color photos. The high points did indeed come, but not along the lines envisioned by Jackie and others. After 1972, Design Works embarked on a new initiative, licensing designs to manufacturers, eventually signing contracts with more than a dozen producers of consumer products, ranging from bedding to apparel to scarves. Silkscreen printing continued, but that too took a new direction. Design Works printing plant switched to contract printing, producing silkscreen printed fabrics developed by various designers for high-end showrooms. It was a radical departure from the original Tillet plan. With the shift to licensing, the tone of the Bethel-Onassis correspondence changed. Invariably, Jackie's letters are responses to Bethel's requests, asking her to help publicize some of these new products. In every case, she graciously declines, while wishing Design Works every success. She also declined invitations to events sponsored by these manufacturers, including an extravagant party at Lincoln Center, reported at some length in the New York Times, even with a photograph. She had generously given her support during the early years when the company struggled to stay afloat. Once Design Works appeared to be on a more secure path to financial stability, largely thanks to royalties from licensing, she stepped back, perhaps believing that her involvement was no longer urgent. That said, for some of Design Works' licensees, calling attention to Jackie's connection to the company was an obvious marketing strategy. For Design Works' first licensing venture in 1972, a line of needlework patterns inspired by African art, flora, and fauna for Crane Harmon, every kit included a message about Jackie, noting that Design Works, quote, is the working culmination of an idea originated by Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, end quote. In 1975, the apparel manufacturer Manhattan Industries commissioned Design Works to produce designs for men's shirts and ties, women's blouses, and other garments, making sure to inform consumers about Jackie's involvement with the company. The press release for their first collection of men's shirts began with this tagline, quote, Manhattan Industries joins hands with Jacqueline Onassis in supporting the Design Works of Bedford-Stuyvesant. Results, great fashion news, end quote. It went on to give a brief history of the Bed-Stuy Company, mentioning other, quote, New York notables who are supporting Design Works, including Ethel Kennedy, Leonard Bernstein, Babe Paley, and New York Senator Jacob Javits. The turnabout from a craft workshop to licensing and contract printing reflected the urgency to increase revenues. It also spotlights Bethel's courage in taking the company in a new direction. For this new phase, he brought on board a licensing agent who secured contracts with major companies such as Martex, and J.P. Stevens for mass-marketed goods such as coordinated bedding and bath collections. If not for the licensing program, Design Works would have been shuttered in 1973. With the new focus on licensing, Jackie's interaction with Design Works diminished. Nonetheless, her support and encouragement had been critical in keeping the business going long enough to explore other options like licensing. When Bethel wrote her in 1979 to inform her that he was leaving Design Works, she answered with a short but I believe heartfelt note. Dear Mark, I was so happy to hear from you, but so sad to learn that you are leaving the Design Works of Bedford-Stuyvesant. I know how much it has meant to you all these years and how much time and effort you have devoted to its cause. I am certain you must feel very rewarded by all you have accomplished. I send you my very best wishes for the future. Sincerely, Jackie. It's not clear from her note if she already knew that Design Works had reached a point of no return. What is clear is that her championing of Design Works succeeded in bringing attention to Robert Kennedy's vision for Bedford-Stuyvesant, perhaps most memorably at the Met event. Leslie and Dee Dee Tillett are to her left in the picture. The publicity and success of Design Works was tangible evidence that restoration was bringing about positive change in the community. Her efforts brought into existence a unique African-American textile design company, which served as an incubator for Black designers. And for a brief period of time, Design Works' success with mass-marketed goods became a symbol of Black pride to thousands of African Americans across the country. Thank you. You're seeing now a QR code which if you are interested, you can pre-order the book at a discount and free shipping before April 30th if you scan this code and follow the instructions. So it's 25% off the list price of $39.95. I think we may be having some questions now.
Yes. Phyllis, I want to thank you for a wonderful program, and I want to congratulate you on your work because you have clearly demonstrated that there is more to say about Jackie Kennedy. I think that's, every historian's dream is to find something new to say about somebody who's been written about so much, and you have certainly done that. I have a question from a reader, or from a viewer rather. How courageous of Jackie to go ahead with her ideas for Design Works after RFK's assassination. Do you really believe that working with Design Works was a way for her and Robert to grieve the president? I mean, do you think that that Jackie had all these things in mind when she was pursuing this opportunity with Design Works?
Okay, well, first of all, could you show the question again?
Yeah, I got a little.
Yeah. So when Jackie decided to go ahead with her idea for Design Works after it was his assassination that jolted her into a mode of action.
Yeah.
As far as did her idea for Design Works come out of their jointly grieving the death of John Kennedy? I don't think I would say that. I would just say that because they did grieve together and support each other at that time, that they became so close. And that was when he was getting involved in thinking about Bedford-Stuyvesant. So she learned a lot about Bedford-Stuyvesant. She already knew what the Tilletts had done in cottage industry work overseas. And so she just put that together.
Yeah. I have a question about Fanny Granton. You had said that she had reported on the White House for Jet and Ebony magazines and kept track of what Jackie Kennedy was doing in the realm of civil rights. And I want to make sure I get this quote correct. She said that her actions, quote, expressed her racial conviction more eloquently than speech could have done. Do you think that you have a sense that Jackie herself felt that actions would speak louder than words? That is, did her choice to let actions speak louder than words reflect any kind of a conscious strategy?
Okay, well, I think that she was somebody who was more comfortable generally taking action as opposed to giving speeches. And in fact, she didn't give very many speeches, and some of the ones that she did give were not in English. She gave a speech in Spanish, she gave a speech in French, and she was not, I mean, of course, she narrated the tour of the White House after the renovation and restoration. But yes, I think she preferred to take action.
It seems that Jackie's remarriage did not in any way diminish her ability to leverage her status as a former First Lady to fundraise and promote Design Works. Is that a fair assessment?
Definitely, yeah. She well, she met with the Tillotts in July of '68 to ask them to get involved, and her marriage to Onassis, I believe, was in September. But she was already very involved with promoting it, and in fact, I think she would have welcomed Onassis's involvement with the restoration project. In her papers, there's a letter to Onassis that she saved, to Aristotle Onassis, um, inviting him to come out there and learn about the project. Not Design Works, but learn about restoration.
Okay. I'm wondering, you mentioned the turnabout from the craft workshop to licensing and contract printing. And I'm wondering if Jackie was a little disappointed in the direction from an aesthetic standpoint or from a design standpoint, that she might have been a little disappointed with the direction that the company had to take, the Design Works had to take to survive. Did you have any sense of that, that maybe she
Well,
was thinking about it in that way?
there's no direct evidence, but I would guess that I doubt that she would have bought the mass-produced sheets and towels. She had very very kind of high-level taste, and things that were the Design Works could produce one-of-a-kind prints, custom colors and all of that, as they did for the fabrics in her apartment. Those were totally custom colors to go with her decor. So I doubt that. I mean, I'm sure she was delighted that they achieved financial stability, actually made a profit for a short time,
Right.
but that would not have been, those would not have been products that she could really personally relate to, I would imagine. Yeah.
Okay. We have a question from the audience. Could the Civil Rights Act be effective in the early 1960s without the development of work skills, jobs, and new customer markets by Design Works and other inclusive entrepreneurial groups? Could there
Uh,
have been success with the civil rights legislation without something like Design Works?
well, Design Works came several years after the Civil Rights Act.
Mhm.
Did it help Design Works? Possibly. Well, it brought attention to the conditions that Blacks faced, and but I think there were other things going on at that time, like the Black Arts Movement, Black is Beautiful, and other things going on that helped Design Works do what they did.
Would you characterize Jackie Kennedy Onassis's efforts on behalf of Design Works as a continuation of the push for civil rights that began with her husband's presidency and extended through Lyndon Johnson's? I mean, do you get a sense that she felt that there was a continuation of what had been started before?
Well, yes, I think she looked at it that way in terms of the examples that I gave about what she did at the White House, and also the letter that she wrote to the congressman from Ohio,
Mhm.
praising and what she said about, you know, her very moving words in that letter.
Did
So
she have any?
I think she was very conscious of the civil rights movement. How she had to be hyper conscious given her, as I said, given her position as first lady.
Right. Did she have any contact with Shirley Chisholm at all? I think Chisholm was the congresswoman from Bed-Stuy in the early '70s. Was there any connection to
I'm
Congresswoman Chisholm?
I'm not aware of any connection. There could have been. I'm not aware of it.
Okay. And I guess I'll ask one more question before we sign off tonight. Did I see Ethel Kennedy in a couple of the photographs in the
Yeah,
montage?
yeah, good,
Okay.
good spotting. Yeah, Leslie had more than one VIP session at Design Works, and Ethel Kennedy was at another one with some other people who could be influencers and help publicize Design Works. And Ethel Kennedy herself definitely purchased some of the Design Works products. And
Okay.
she was definitely a supporter, definitely.
We have one more question from the audience. Was Jackie aware that the branded merchandise was linked to her name?
Well, I would guess that she would have been, possibly. I could imagine that, well, I don't know for sure. Well, yes, yes. She would have been aware of the needlework, the needlepoint kits, because I think Mark Bethel wanted to give her one of the kits. So, and he probably did give her one of the kits. So she would have seen her name in that kit, the piece of paper that talks about her. As far as the Manhattan Industries, she could possibly have been aware of it. It's possible, definitely.
Mhm. Well, Phyllis, again, I want to thank you so much for your program tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm sure our audience did as well. And I will pass it back now to Diana Carlin, president of Flair.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. This was fascinating. I'm with Chris. All I kept thinking was just when you think you know everything there is to know about Jackie Kennedy, this was an outstanding piece of scholarship, and it's exactly the type of thing that we want to promote with Flair. New scholarship, new approaches to studying our first ladies, and to presenting information that's new to many of us. I made notes because I'm going to have to do some book revisions and add a few things to the Jackie Kennedy section of a book that I co-authored with Nita McBride and Nancy Keegan-Smith. So thank you again, Chris. Thank you for moderating. Thank you again, Sharon and Abby, for a seamless program. And just a couple reminders, please go to flair-net.org. You will find the latest American FLOTUS podcast. This program will be available immediately for anyone to view. So if you want to pass it on to friends, just send the link to them. You just hit the little icon in the bottom of the television and it will take you to the URL. And then also remind everyone that on May 15th, we have a conference at American University, which will be live streamed, and you can join us for a full day of interesting information about a wide range of First Ladies. And finally, on our website, go to the research section and read our first issue of the Journal of First Lady Studies. So thank you for being with us. Thank you to our viewers, and good night to everyone.
Bye. Thanks again.